Alright, time for a video for the systems of equations using algebra. Homework, this one's about 16 systems problems. On each of them, you choose whether to use substitution or elimination. And really some of them, there's a lot of choice involved. Some of them are already set up to use one of them. For example, one, notice how the the coefficient for both the x's is 2 and negative 2. So if you were to add those two equations together, the x's would disappear. This would be the elimination method. So adding it up, you're going to get 0x, which really doesn't do anything. We're not going to bother writing it down. But y plus 3y is going to give me 4y. And on the right side, 13 plus 7 is going to give me 20. Now, to figure out what y is, you have to divide both sides by 4, and you get y equals 5. So that's great, and that's one of our solutions. Now you just need to go about figuring out what x is. To do that, use what you know about y. We're going to take this 5, and let's plug it into the first one, just right there, where y is, and we can use that equation to help us figure out x. So 2x plus whatever y is, 5, equals 13. Well, if you want to get x by itself, you should subtract 5 from both sides, and now we got 2x equaling 8, and divide both sides by 2, and you'll have x equals 4. And now we have both of our numbers, and together they make the point 4, 5. You can just keep them separate or write as a point, either or, both fine with me. Moving on to 2, this one again is set up for elimination. Notice the positive 5x and negative 5x. If you add them together, you get 0 x's, which would eliminate the x's. And so we're just going to start with this and just add the equations together. The x's disappear. We'll get 5y plus negative y, which is 4y. And on the right side, 5 plus negative 17 gives me negative 12. Now to finish up figuring out what y is, divide both sides by 4, because 4 was in front of y. You'll get y equals negative 3. So there's my first equation. I know what y is, so now I can take my y and put it in to one of my equations. I'm going to put it into that second one. Let's put it there in my second one. And that will give me negative 5x minus negative 3 equals negative 17. Remember that the negative of a negative is positive. So I really got negative 5x plus 3 equals negative 17. I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. I'll get negative 5x equals negative 20. And now I just need to divide both sides by that negative 5 to get my x all by itself. I'll have x equals 4. And together this makes the point 4, negative 3, the y and the x. And so that's my final solution. Moving on to 3. This one's actually set up precisely for substitution. It says y all by itself is equal to something else. Well, my other equation has a y all by itself. I can take that and put it into my other one. I can substitute it in. So if I take my second one and substitute in that first one, I'll get 2x equals x plus 2. Well, I need to get my x's all by themselves on one side, so I'm going to subtract x from both sides. 2x minus x is just x. There's only one x. And on the right side is just 2. Well, there we are. X is all by itself, and x is 2. So there's my first one. Now I can take that 2 and put it right into my second equation there, because y is equal to x, which is now 2, plus 2, and you got y equals 4. So now I got the point 2, 4 as my solution. Moving on to 4, this one again is set up perfect, like y equals something. That's just tells you to substitute. So I'm going to take that 3x, put in for the y of my other equation, make sure you substitute in the other one. So now we're at 3x equals negative 7x minus 20. If you add 7x to both sides, you'll get 10x. And on the right side, we just have that negative 20 now. Divide both sides by 10. And you'll have x equaling negative 2. So there's my first variable. I need to figure out what y is. I'm going to take this negative 2, and I'm going to plug it right into that x right there. And that'll give me y equals 3. and then in parentheses negative 2. Y equals negative 6. So there we go. Now we have x and y, and that gives us the point negative 2, negative 6. Moving on to number 5. This one is really close being set up for elimination because these 6's in front of the y's are practically the same thing. This time we want to add our equations though, because 6y plus 6y is 12y, which doesn't help us, but we can actually subtract the whole thing, because 6y minus 6y is 0y. So we're going to do subtraction. And make sure you subtract all the pieces. 8x minus 10x is going to give me negative 2x. And negative 24 minus negative 30, make sure you minus the negative, is going to give me negative 24 plus 30, which is 6. And now we just need to get x all by itself by dividing by what's in front, that negative 2. And we'll get x equals negative 3. So we got one of our variables already. And once you have that, you can take your variable and plug it into one of your equations. I'm going to plug it into my first one to get 8 times negative 3 plus 6y equals negative 24. And now it's just a matter of getting y all by itself. Let's do the 8 times negative 3, which gives me negative 24. And we got plus 6y equals negative 24. To get rid of the negative 24 on the left side, we're going to add 24 to both sides. On the left side, we have 6y, and on the right side, negative 24 plus 24 is okay. It's fine. It gives you 0. And so all you have to do now to get y by itself is divide by 6 on both sides. You'll get y equals 0, because 0 divided by anything is just 0. So now we have the point negative 3, 0 as our final answer. Moving on to 6, again, we have the same coefficients in front of our variables. So if we want to get rid of that variable, just subtract the second equation. And this one turns out kind of weird, because 8x minus 8x is just 0x. Negative 9y minus negative 9y will give you 0y. And then negative 14 minus negative 14, same thing as negative 14 plus 14, which is a 0. And we get this equation of 0 equals 0. Well, that is true. And it doesn't matter what numbers you pick for x and y, you'll get a true statement. And so we have infinitely many solutions. And so there we go, solutions for that. Let's move on to 7. Well, our equation already tells us what y is. That's kind of convenient. So let's take that, what y is, 8, and put it where y is in our other equation. Just substitute it in. And so if we rewrite that, we're going to get 8x plus 6 times 8. Gives me negative 16. Well, let's actually calculate this. So we'll get 8x plus 48 equals negative 16. Let's subtract the 48 from both sides. And we'll get, on this right side, we'll get 64 negative. And on the left side, we should have 8x. Divide both sides by what's in front of x. To get x by itself, you get x equals negative 8. So we got x, we got y. That gives us the point negative 8 for our solution. And there we go. Moving on to 8. This one is set up for substitution. Notice how it says y equals something. Well, that something can be put where the y is in my other equation. So I'm going to just plug that right in, substitute it in. That's going to give me the equation of 7x minus 2. Make sure you put these things in parentheses. Negative 2x plus 16, which comes from my second equation there. And on the right side we have 23. Now I just need to distribute that through to get things simplified. We'll get 7x plus 4x minus 32 is going to equal 23. And I want to combine my x's, but also get rid of the subtract 32 while I'm at it. So I'm going to add 32 to both sides. And in the meantime, add 7x and 4x together to get me 11x. And then on the right side, 23 plus 32 is 55. Divide both sides by what's in front of x, which is 11, to get x equals 5. Yay, we got one of our numbers. And once you have that, you can take that number of 5 and just put it back into one of your equations. I'm going to put it in the second one because it already says y equals, and it's just going to be a calculation problem. So I got y equals negative 2 times 5, what I subbed in, plus 16. Well, negative 2 times 5 is negative 10. And negative 10 plus 16 is just 6. So y is 6. And so altogether, I have the point 5, 6. That should be a whole 6 without the little part missing. So there we go. There's 8. Let's do 9 real quick, and that should be it for this video. On this one, notice how my coefficients are the same. I don't have y equals. I need to make one of my equations have the same coefficient. And notice that these have a common factor, which is 3. And so if I want, I can change this to be 12 fairly easily just by timesing my entire first equation by 4. And while I'm at it, I'll change the sign too, so these will have different signs. So I'm going to take that first equation times everything by negative 4. That's going to give me 20x positive, negative 12y, and then negative 18 times negative 4. I don't particularly remember that. So I'm going to use my handy dandy calculator. It gives me 72. And now that I have this new equation, I'm going to kind of just like get rid of that one, just not use it anymore. I'm just going to focus on the bottom two. I have opposite coefficients here on my y, so I'm going to add those two equations together. Negative 9x plus 20x is 11x. 12y and negative 12y makes 0y. So now I'm going to borrow to write that. And 27 plus 72 is 99. So now I have that. I can just divide by what's in front of x, which is 11, to figure out what x is, which is 9. Because 99 divided by 11 is 9. So now I have my x. I can take that number and just plug it into one of my equations. I'm going to plug it into this one right here, and for that x there. That's going to give me negative 9 times 9 plus 12y equals 27. And now I'm going to simplify this a little bit. Let's actually do that multiplication to get negative 81 plus 12y equals 27. I want to get rid of that negative 81. I want to get my y by itself, so I'm going to add 81 to both sides. That'll give me 12y equaling, see right there, we're going to have 801. And then divide both sides by that number that's in front of y, which is 12, and get y equals 9. So x is 9, y is 9, I get the point 9, 9 for 9.